Our next guest. Yes, Pat.
And we're only through a tenth of our guests so far.
Oh, you know what? I have to pull a Bob Seger here.
Uh-oh.
And turn the page. Come on, we're all happy with that.
I like that.
Hey, so Nancy Grace went for forfeit. Nancy Grace, you asshole.
Phone call from Nancy Grace
Nancy
would be
Lee
great.
Grond went for forfeit. She's an angel.
She's
Nancy,
doing God's,
you're an angel,
doing God's
Nancy.
work.
You're doing God's work the way that you, sodomize victims of dead people. Whatever.
Did you see Gone Girl?
Did I see Gone Girl? Yes, I did.
The depiction of a Nancy Grace character in that movie is beautiful. I love
Yes,
it.
sir. I'll agree
Terrific.
with that.
Go see Gone Girl.
Our next guest, Pat, you're going to like this. Kathleen forgot this. Let me pass this off to somebody. Our next guest. Here's a cat. Take that too. Our next guest, folks, once again, to use the word legendary may be an understatement. He is a gentleman that I grew up idolizing. You remember him. He was the host of Tic-Tac-Dough, Debt, a million other things. Mr. Wink Martindale. The Winkster.
Gee, I noticed I came out here right after you talking about sodomizing.
Yeah.
Appreciate that.
I apologize for that, Wink.
We used to use that a lot on Tic-Tac-Dough.
Is that right?
A lot of questions on sodomy.
That drag would come right at you and sodomize?
Yeah, that's why we went off the air, as a matter of fact.
Oh, is that right? That
One
was
too many sodomy jokes. But moving right on.
We don't have to. We can talk about this for as long as you want to. First of all, as I said in the opening, in your intro, I grew up idolizing you. I mean, as a guy, I've hosted game shows.
You're a smart man.
And, well, you're
Good taste.
You
You
were
have
the
good
best,
taste.
the smoothest.
Thank you.
But you got your start in radio.
Yeah. In fact, I always wanted to be a radio announcer. I had no idea that I'd ever be in TV. In fact, when I was a kid, there was no TV. I go back a long way. But I always wanted to be in radio. And right out of high school at 17, I got a job in my hometown, Jackson, Tennessee, a little 250-watt tea kettle radio station. And just advanced from there in the next couple of years to Memphis at WHBQ, my dream station where I always wanted to work and do the morning show.
And why was that your dream station? Because you were able
because
to hear it in
everybody
your
in
home?
Jackson was a town of about 25,000, and all the kids, all of us listened to that station because they played more music than anybody else.
What kind of music were they playing, Wink, at that time?
I call it vanilla music.
Okay.
You know, we had Perry Como and Eddie Fisher and Patti Page and that K-Star, remember Wheel of Fortune?
Yeah.
All of that. And then it was while I was at WHBQ doing the morning show, one night I happened to be there in the evening when our nighttime jock, who was on the air from 9 to midnight, Dewey Phillips, he played black music for white kids. That's when kids were really getting into rhythm and blues and dark music. And Sam Phillips, who founded Sun Records, happened to walk in that night. And I was in the control room with Dewey, just watching him work. And he handed Dewey it wasn't even a record, it was what we called an acetate.
Yeah.
A song called That's All Right Mama by a truck driving singer named Elvis Presley. And he put it on the turntable and he started playing it and the switchboard lit up and over and over and over again he played it. And I got on the phone. Sam had Gladys and Vernon's home phone number. I got on the phone and called him, and I said, "Where's Elvis? We want all the excitement's going on. We want him to come down to the station so Dewey can interview him on the air." Mm-hmm. And Gladys said, "Well, he was so nervous that he went to see a double feature. He's over at the Suzors Theater on Decatur Street watching a double feature Western."
And he's nervous because he knew the record was going to be played. Yeah. He didn't want to know what happened.
And he didn't know what the reaction was going to be. He was a little nervous. Mm-hmm. So they got in their truck, and they went and walked up and down the aisle. Dark theater, found him sitting there all by himself, brought him down to the radio station after they whispered to him about the excitement that was being generated.
Yeah.
And Dewey put him on the air that night. I met him that night, and he was a friend until the day he died.
Is that right?
1977, yeah.
So you went through all of his ups and downs, the peaks and valleys. With
Yes, absolutely.
Unbelievable.
Yeah. And my wife,
who is here with us,
of 39 years, Sandy, dated him for 6 years.
You dated Elvis Presley for 6 years. Wait, you got to live up to the king.
Well, you know what she always tells everybody, Elvis was the best kisser, but I'm the best husband.
Boom.
I'm
Well,
the
wait a
one-
minute.
I'm the one what pays the bills.
But was he that good of a kisser, Sandy?
He was the best kisser.
Oh no! Wait a minute. You like? Is that okay? You're okay. You're okay. With it.
Oh, well, he's been gone. Look who's standing.
You're damn right.
I'm still here.
You're right. And by the way, you look great. Can I ask how old are you?
I'm 80.
Jesus, you look 62 years old.
I will be 81 the 4th of December next week.
Happy birthday.
Thank you.
You look fantastic.
Thank you.
What do you do?
I feel good. Well, Sandy, she's, she gives me all these vitamins to take and has for years and years and years. I said to her recently, I said, you could be killing me. I wouldn't know what the hell these are. She said, yeah, it's a slow death, 39 years.
Yeah.
But I think part of it's genes, and I feel great. I take care of myself. Don't drink a lot, just wine and occasional martini. And just, really kind of take care of myself. Exercise.
It's obvious that you
that sort of thing.
Do you have a place? You strike me as a guy that would have a place out in Palm Springs. You have a place out in the Springs?
I wish.
Well,
No, but I have friends who have places in Palm
so you
Springs.
go visit them. You do.
No, we live in Calabasas, actually. Been there.
You right over in Calabasas?
Yeah.
That's you don't know this. You just walked into a running joke on this show.
Have you been making fun of Calabasas?
No. Jimmy Pankow, who's the trombone player for Chicago.
Sure.
I met him on a plane, and then I met him I ran into him again at Conan, where I work.
right.
And I said, now do you live in town? He goes, yeah, I'm over here in Calabasas. And he was so excited about it, like we're going to be buddies for the rest of our lives. But I told that story on the show, and then now whenever Calabasas comes up, yeah, I'm over in Calabasas.
Yeah.
So you walked right in.
We lived in Malibu for a bunch of years, and then George C. Scott's real estate person came and knocked on our door one day. He had a beautiful home there. And the guy said, we have a buyer for your house. Would you be interested in selling? And I said, I'll sell my wife if the price is right. And the price was right.
Yeah.
And I got to keep my wife.
Sandy got to stay.
But George C. Scott bought our house. Charlie Bronson, I heard you mention him a while ago.
Yeah.
He lived across the street from us.
Wow.
We lived in an area called Sarah Retreat, not on the water side, but on the inland side.
Mm-hmm.
And then we moved from there and bought this wonderful home. We've been there for 23 years now in a place called Mountain View Estates in Calabasas. And that's the reason I got here early, because you never know when you leave. Well, wherever you go in this town, you don't know how long, when you get on the freeway, it's going to take.
Yeah.
But we breezed on in here, and it's a pleasure to be here because I know you do good work. This is a terrific thing you're doing.
Thank you.
And it's a pleasure to be here and be a part of it.
Well, we're thrilled that you're here. When our mutual friend John Ritchie said, I'm friends with Wink Martindale, I was like, you got to get Wink on the Pardcast-a-Thon.
Yeah.
Like I immediately was like selfish of the idea of having you come on.
Yeah.
And so, how did you make the transition then from radio, which you were really successful at, and then you were on Ed Sullivan?
Yeah, I came out here from Memphis. I asked for a transfer.
Okay.
RKO owned a whole bunch of stations, including WOR in New York, and they owned KHJ out here, RKO Radio.
Mm-hmm.
And so I asked for a transfer, and my mentor, who had given me my job at WHBQ in Memphis, said, well, would you rather go to New York or LA? And New York kind of scared me. We were there just a week or so ago doing a job, and it's fun to visit, but I couldn't live there.
Yeah.
And I thought, palm trees look good, that's nice. And so I said, how about Los Angeles? And he said, picked up the phone, called Norm Boggs, who was manager of the station, and said, I got a young man here, he's been with us for 7 years at WHBQ, and he's done a good job for us, and he'd love to come to LA. So I flew out, had the interview, got the job, and came out here in March of 1959. That's a long way around telling you how I got on the Ed Sullivan Show. That summer, I had a recording contract with Dot Records. Randy Wood, who founded Dot Records, and Pat Boone and Billy Vaughn and the Hilltoppers and all those people. And I had a record contract with him that was signed when I was still in Memphis. He said, we won't rush this. He had heard me sing.
And you would sing around Memphis? You would do
Yeah,
live
around
dates
Memphis,
and such?
and I had a contract with a local label called OJ Records. And you might remember the comedian Dave Gardner.
I don't.
Dave Flatgeddy Gardner. He had the original record on White Silver Sands, which was a big hit in the 1950s. I'm dating myself. But he was on the same label I was in Memphis. Well, Randy Wood came to town, was a guest on my teenage dance party, and heard me sing, and said, would you like to be on Dot? And I said, "Are you kidding?" So he bought my contract for $25,000, and he said, "Now we won't be in a hurry to find something for you to record, but when you get out here, I'll be looking." And when I got out here, I got off the air one morning on KHJ, and the phone, it was Randy Wood calling me. He said, "I want you to come down the street." He was right up the street from KHJ at Fountain and Vine, up by where Wallach's Music City used to be, and right next door. And so I went into his office and sat down, and he played an old country 78 RPM scratchy record by a country artist named T. Texas Tyler. It was called Deck of Cards. And he was playing this thing, and right in the middle of it, I was thinking to myself, who in the world is going to buy a semi-religious talking record when the number one hit at that time was Mac the Knife by Bobby Darin, and it was Venus by Frankie Avalon, and kids buy records. And so I thought, who's going to buy this? But sure enough, when it was over and he took the needle off, he said, "Well, what do you think?" I said, "Randy, I love it. I love it." I wasn't about to turn down it. He had a good ear, and if he thought it was commercial or could be commercial. So that summer, we went into a recording studio and recorded Deck of Cards, which was the story about a soldier who used a deck of cards in church during World War II because he didn't have a Bible. The ace was one God, the deuce, Old and New Testament, three, what is three, Sandy? That's why I bring her. I bring her as a cue card.
She's still thinking about kissing Elvis.
Yeah. By the way, until that moment, I was going to say, for 81 years old, Jesus Christ, you remember every detail, every name, and then all of a sudden, fast.
I went into the toilet.
But that's okay. You don't have
4 was Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John. Anyway, went all the way through the Bible, and we made this record. It was a sort of a pop version of the old country record. We used a vocal group in the background. Put the record out, and I really thought nothing would ever happen. And sure enough, Bob Clayton, a DJ in Boston, one morning in September, played it on his top-rated morning show, and the switchboard lit up. And I got a call the next day from Randy, and he said, "Guess what? We just got an order for 10,000 of your records out of Boston." And from there, it just like wildfire swept across the country. And by November, it was like number 4 on Cashbox and Billboard, sold over 1 million. And I got a call to do the narrative on the Ed Sullivan Show. And so I flew to New York, and it was like an out-of-body experience because, I grew up watching the Ed Sullivan Show, and here I am all of a sudden standing on the same stage that David Letterman is on now. That's the same theater. But yeah, that was quite an experience. And to this day, I still have people say, "Are you the same Wink Martindale who recorded that deck of cards?" And my answer is always the same. Do you think there are 2 people walking this planet with a silly name like Wink Martindale?
Record that song.
Yeah, right.
And the highest it charted was number 4?
Yeah, number 4.
Pat, you had a question?
Where does the name Wink come from?
Wink's a nickname. It started with Winky because I played with a kid in the neighborhood when we were 7 or 8 years old in Jackson, Tennessee. And he couldn't say Winston, which is my real name.
Okay.
He had a speech impediment, and it came out sounding like Winky. So I became Winky. And then, of course, you don't come to Hollywood with a name like Winky.
Nope.
And so I just knocked off the IE, and it served me well.
Yeah.
So I've been Wink ever since.
And what was I was just talking to Steve Dahl, who's a radio guy in Chicago.
Yes.
And he grew up listening to you here. And he was just saying what your catchphrase was. What was your catchphrase? I'm Wink. Damn it, I can't pull it.
When I was at KFWB, we had a little phrase of wink to work and weed to home. Gene Weed did the afternoon show, and I did the morning show. Wink to work and weed to home. I don't know.
It wasn't that. It was something about. I'm sorry, I brought you down a path. I can't remember it.
Yeah,
Damn it,
you are getting older, aren't you? Memory's the second thing to go.
It's. I've been.
Also, you're like a lot of men, women, as they get older, their voices get like a little frailer, and your voice
Still has the pipes.
amazing. What are you doing?
It is amazing. Somebody was. We were talking about that last week to somebody else who said the same thing. And I have a recording studio at home, and I still do some radio stuff. I do a 10-hour special coming up for Christmas that's syndicated by a company called Envision, the 100 most popular Christmas hits of all time.
Great.
And we count them down like Casey did on American Top 40 from 100 to 1. And recently, when I was doing some recording in my studio at home, I had an occasion to go back and take an interview that I had done in the 70s with Glenn Campbell. I used to do noon to 3 at Gene Autry's KMPC, and I was there for 12 years. And I needed to replace something on this Glenn Campbell interview with something I said which was dated. And so I took that out and I inserted my live voice onto the tape, and I swear to God, you couldn't tell the difference from 1973 until today. And you're right, usually when people age, your voice, does start to go. But my voice is, it's the same today as it was in the 60s and 70s.
You could get on tic-tac-toe tomorrow and nobody would know the difference.
You think?
Do I? Yes, I do.
I'd love to get on another one of those. Yeah.
You were so great on it, and
thank you.
And you were great to show up today. I cannot, honest to God, a thrill to meet you and to have you here. Thank you.
Well, thank you. My pleasure.
Wait.